take 3. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. I am here to review Love After Lockup. This is season 3. It feels like episode 4, but it's not. It's actually episode 38, Imaginary Boyfriend. We get to meet a new couple, well, half of a new couple, but we'll get into them later. Let's first start off with Rachel and Doug because they sort of had the shortest segment. If you recall, Rachel is driving them to the nearest Holiday Inn, I guess, because they cannot wait one more second to actually physically be together. And as Rachel's like driving, you know, Doug has he's all over her. He has his hands, God only knows where. I don't even want to know. They pull up to the hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, and Rachel's a little perplexed because Doug is 6'5" and she is 4'10" and a half. Don't forget that half. And so she's kind of just wondering how they're gonna fit, but we get an idea because the cameras are all up in that hotel room. I was just like, what are they just gonna let them film? I mean, it was getting a little explicit, if you ask me. Like, I'm very private, especially in the bedroom. I don't need no cameras. He's taking his shirt off. He's like in between her legs. Like, I was just like, this is feeling a little soft core pornish. Like, when are they gonna are they really just gonna record all this? I mean, until finally, Doug's like, okay, it's time for you guys to go. And I'm like, thank you. I don't need to see any more of this. And so we meet up with them later that afternoon because if you recall, they're just there for a quick interlude. They got to get to Rachel's house by 5 o'clock because Doug is on curfew. And so, it's like I said, later that afternoon, they're all showered, they're freshening up, packing up, and they both agree that it was wonderful. I mean, okay, I'll take their word for it. But I mean, they really, Doug kind of goes into the details. Like, he's telling her like he bent her. Oh, I don't even want to talk about it because I just feel like it's a little TMI. This whole episode was TMI. But yeah, okay, so they're hitting the road to get back, to Rachel's home. He's still all over her. She doesn't mind it. She asks him if he's excited to spend time with Dougie Jr. He says yes. He just kind of reiterates that he's been in and out of the system, prison, his adult life. Dougie Jr. was about 1.5 when he first got sent to prison. And then when he got out for those 40 days, I think Dougie was around 7 years old. And then he got sent back. So he's well aware that he's missed a lot of Dougie's childhood. But, I suppose there's still room to make up for lost time. But, yeah, you lost out on a lot of those formative years. But, he seems like he's, in there now, I guess. Rachel pulls up to her neighborhood, her house, and Doug is just like, wow, this is, it's beautifully tree-lined streets. There's sidewalks. Like, he's never lived in a neighborhood that's had sidewalk. When he goes inside, he's just, he's marveled at, the empire that Rachel has built. And he's just like, wow, he's looking around thinking, this is the kind of house him and his homeboys used to rob back in the day. It's nice furniture, a fully stocked fridge, and, he carries her up the stairs and he's just like, wow, it's great to be the man of the house. And I'm just like, it's so interesting that men like him and Josh, like with Courtney, just automatically just step into that role like, yeah, this is mine and I've had to do nothing to earn it other than, I don't know, meet a woman and wife her up and blow her back out. That's all that is required in the beginning. Like, she doesn't mind though, like they go upstairs, Rachel sees that, this situation is similar to her previous marriage, but it's totally different this time. She's never been happier. It just feels so right. They're kind of kissing and, making out again. And then she asks him like, are you hungry? I can make you a sandwich. He's like, yeah, go make me a sandwich. She goes down to make the bologna sandwiches. And again, he's just looking around and he realizes like, he's not going to mess this up. He's never lived in such a nice place. He definitely has a lot more to lose this time. And not just him, but Dougie too. He says Doug Jr.'s never lived in such a nice place. So he knows if he messes this up, it's not just him that's kicked out on his butt, but Dougie too. So he's sort of got to look out for both of them. And he is fully determined to do the right thing. And okay, we'll see. I mean, it feels right to Rachel. It feels good to him. We'll see what happens. Let's talk about Rey and Brittany. So when we last left them, Brittany and Ray's family were at the bus stop ready to pick him up. The prison van pulled up, he got out, and then he quickly got shuffled back in and is being taken away back to prison, I suppose. And everybody's confused and perplexed. So grandma goes over to talk to, I don't know who, like another prison van driver, I don't know. And she finds out that, when they were dropping Ray off, he was supposed to just get on a bus and head out. He wasn't supposed to be met by any family or picked up by family. So there was some sort of miscommunication. Grandma's like, well, what do we do now? And the driver, whoever she's talking to, is like, I don't know. And grandma's like, well, can we go to the prison and pick him up? And the person's like, I don't know. So they're just like, well, let's just go to the prison and see if we can pick him up, so it's exactly what they do. They get to the prison guards let them in, and they're able to pick him up. The family stays in the car. Brittany gets out, runs over to him. So she is indeed the first person that gets to hug him and embrace him. And the family just kind of hanging out in the car. They come together. I don't want to say it's a reunion because they've never really been united physically, but it's a nice moment. He comes over to the car, hugs his mom, his dad, and they're just like, come on, let's get you in. We got to get you to the halfway house by a certain time. We're already behind because of this whole mix-up. And then we learn a lot more about Ray, and my heart just totally goes out to Ray. He says that his parents split up when he was 2 years old, and he went to live with his mom primarily. So I suppose the woman in the car is his stepmom. He says, though, that when he was 11, his mother was killed. I would say murdered. She was shot several times and left in a van. And to this day, her murder is unsolved. They don't know who did this to her. They don't know why. And in turn, he's really had no closure or justice on this. And he says, he just started acting out. This is totally understandable, I can't even imagine having, and it seems like he got along well with his mother, had a good relationship. And so can't imagine just being a young child and having your mother so horrifically ripped away from you and having no answers. He said he kind of fell into a bad crowd. They started robbing houses, stealing medications and pills to sell to make money. And then he started taking them. He got addicted, and here we are today. It's so sad. And with all due respect, I feel like real intensive therapy would benefit him greatly. I mean, I'm assuming that he hasn't really processed this trauma that he experienced and is still carrying around. And I would hope, I'm assuming Brittany must know all of this, and I would hope that she is supportive in him kind of dealing with that first before, I don't know, pressuring him into marrying you and having kids right away. I just think that's the last thing he needs right now. He really needs to figure himself out, deal with these emotions, the loss, the unjustness of it all. That's so heavy. I'm not trying to make this serious, but my heart just broke for him. Man, yeah. I can't even articulate what a horrible card that was dealt to this guy. And it's understandable that he's acted out the way he has. And to me, he is somebody who definitely does deserve a second chance and to kind of, start his life anew. The thing is, though, is he has the support system. He has a loving father, a stepmother who kind of considers him her child. Because, when Brittany was out hugging and kissing him, the stepmom was kind of looking at the dad oh my God, she's kissing my baby. She is all over my baby. So he is loved. And so, if having that didn't stop him from committing these crimes, I don't know why Brittany thinks she would be enough to not have him go out and do those things. He's got to deal with this. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't think she's enough. He's got to really, oh man, I really want him to do well. And I want her to be supportive in that before she starts making these demands, and because she's kind of coming off a little selfish to me, and maybe it's the editing. It's sort of like what I said in the beginning with Doug and Rachel. If she's really serious about this man and getting married and having a family, it would behoove them as well to enter into serious family therapy alone and together. That's just my sort of, opinion. They're driving to the halfway house. Ray mentions that he's kind of bummed he doesn't get to have some alone time with Brittany. but you know, all in due time. And he's also kind of bummed that he has to go to this halfway house because it feels like another prison, which is understandable, but you know, kind of play by the rules, you know, if we really want to make a go of, you know, getting out and staying out. And that's pretty much it for them. You know, I really, you know, Brittany shares that, you know, she really wants her family to meet him, but more so she wants them to be open-minded to giving him a fair shot, which I think he deserves, but it's going to take a little time. I mean, I have hope for them, but it's going to take some time. And I just don't want her to rush anything. I know she feels like she's 33 and she's getting older, but just like, let's take our time with this if you're really sincere. And he seems sincere, but we'll see. That's where we leave them, and we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping the best for Rey. Like, I can't tell you. Like, my heart hurt so bad when he told his story. Like, oh, it's just, my heart goes out to him. It's horrible. Let's talk about the new couple, Anisa and Jeff. Anisa is 51, Jeff is 39. She lives in Tennessee. He is incarcerated for possession of firearms, and he's set to be released in a few days. Anisa shares right off the bat that she is a cougar, always has been. As a matter of fact, her first husband, she married when she was 29 and he was 19. When she met him, he was young, he was hot, he was sweet, and I guess 10 years later, he got fat and boring. And you know, in a kind of like gender role reversal, she traded him in for a younger model. She met Jeff on like a prison dating website, saw him, his tattoos, he's cut, he's built, you know, it's her dream guy. Like, totally, he's got an edge. That's what she likes. That's what all these women seem to like. They like that edgier bad boy. I mean, so, you know, tale as old as time here. And she, of course, she wishes they could have met under better circumstances, you know, him not being in prison, and perhaps maybe, you know, when they were both younger, so they could have had like a longer lifetime together. But I'm like, girl, you're a cougar. You would have traded him in when he got fat and boring. So I think you're right on schedule here with this one. So anyway, they have been communicating for 11 years. 11 years. I'm like, wow. So she met him when she was like, what, 40? I can't imagine putting my life on hold and waiting for somebody I've never even met. But that's exactly what she's done. But hey, he's set to be released in a few days. So her and her cousin Penny are headed over to the wedding dress shop because she wants to marry Jeff quickly after his release. So let's go buy her a dress. So they go to the dress shop. They meet Haley, the dress shop assistant. I don't know if she's the owner. She kind of at first is like, so, you know, tell me about your fiance, you know, as wedding dress assistants do. And Anisa, you know, is just like, well, he's in prison. I met him while he was in prison. And Haley's like, okay, like, cool. I mean, hey, she still wants to make that sale, so she rolls with it. And so, you know, she's bringing her out dresses. Anissa's trying them on. Penny's like sitting there watching. And then, you know, Penny asks Anisa, like, okay, how do you know that he's going to show up this time? And Haley's like, whoa, hold a minute. She overhears this, like, excuse me, I'm sorry. Has he stood you up, like, at the altar before? And yes, he has. Well, not technically the altar, but we find out that in the course of this 11 years, Jeff has been released twice. And both times, he has ghosted her. There was sort of an understanding arrangement for him to show up to her home after his release to, I guess, you know, stay with her. And he just never showed up. She never came. She never saw him. And yes, Penny, she was devastated and heartbroken those times, but this time is different. He regrets that. He regrets what he did. He's learned from those lessons, and he'll be here this time. And Haley, the wedding dress assistant shop girl, is just like, wow, like this is crazy. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not calling you crazy. This situation's crazy. She's smart. She's trying to make that sale. So don't call the customer crazy, but the situation is definitely crazy. Like, there are no guarantees that he's going to show up, and I kind of have a feeling he won't, as does Penny. Penny thinks this relationship is strange and fishy, and she has to wonder, does Jeff even exist? Because she's heard a lot about him for 11 years, yet zero evidence that he actually exists. Like, you know, because he's just never shown up. But no, you know, Anissa's not worried about it. This time it's going to work. So she buys the dress that she likes later on that night, or maybe the next day, because it's like 18 hours until his release, you know, we see on the screen. And Anissa's friend comes over. His name is Kyle. Just kind of visit her, check on her, see how she's doing, you know, because, you know, her potential new husband is being released in just 18 hours. So he asks her, how are you doing? How are things going? Like, are you ready? Like, have you heard from him? And she's like, no, I haven't really heard from him in a couple days. And I'm like, that's odd. Kind of getting not a good feeling about this. And she's like, well, it's because he's always getting in trouble. So he's always put like into solitary confinement. So it's not easy for him to make calls and communicate. And I'm like, not a good sign. And like Penny, Kyle has to wonder, like, are you sure you're not making him up? I can't imagine like somebody questioning, like, well, I would never make up a boyfriend. And if somebody questioned whether or not my boyfriend was, it's odd, it's strange. But she's like, no, like, he's real. But Kyle's like, well, in all this time that you've been with him, 11 years now, I've never been here to hear the phone ring, to walk in on you having a conversation with him. Like, I've never seen him. Where are the letters? Like, where's the evidence? Where are the receipts? Anisa, show us the receipts. She's like, no, it's real. Like, as a matter of fact, let me show you something. Here, look at the wedding dress I bought. And he's just like, really? Like that's what we're doing? Like, okay, he's worried about her. We're all worried about her. And I don't have the highest hopes that we're gonna meet Jeff, only because we're already into sort of like seemingly episode 4, and we're just meeting Anisa. And I feel like they probably don't have a whole lot of footage of her, because either he's not gonna get out or he's not gonna show up. And it's just this poor woman. Like, what's going on with her? What's going on with her? Like, is she all there? I don't know. I'm being judgy, but is she all there? It's crazy. Anyway, I guess we'll see if we meet him or we don't. That's where we left off. He's set to be released in just 18 hours. I don't know. I don't have much hope, though. Just being honest. Stan the man and Lisa. Okay. Gonna be trying to be a little delicate on this one, okay? Lisa wasn't lying when she says she looks different from her pictures. Yeah. I mean, she's the same person, but she looks totally different. And her hair is short. But I mean, it's not just that it's short. She's rocking a faux hawk. Like, this is a style. I thought when we heard that she was in a prison fight and had her hair pulled and she had to cut it, it was going to be like this little pixie cut. Like, no, this is like she went and gave herself like the circa 2005 faux hawk. She's fuller in the face. And I mean, that's not to say we all gain weight that time, but it's almost like she's like beefed up, buffed up a little bit. Like, this is a look. Okay, this isn't just like I've gained a little weight, I cut my hair. Like, she's got a whole new persona that I wasn't expecting. But Stan doesn't care. He does not mind. He loves her. He runs to her. They hug. He like kisses her. She's kind of like, I might be a little stronger than you. Yeah, I think just a little bit, She has this like box of stuff from prison. I don't know what. He puts it in the trunk. She's kind of like, oh, when do I get to drive the car? And he's like, oh, maybe later, right? They get in the car and he's like, look, I brought you some wigs. And she doesn't seem too thrilled or excited. I thought when she saw them, she was going to be excited and want to put one on, but she's looking at him like, oh, this is ugly. Oh, I don't like this color. Oh, this is so not me. Like, I don't think she wants to wear a wig. I think she likes the look she has. And we learn, okay, I don't want to be offensive, but she uses the word stud because they're driving along. She clearly isn't really into the wigs, and kind of jokingly, not jokingly, says like, you like this stud look. Those are her words, okay? And he kind of chuckles like, and she's like, I'm into girls. And he's like, yeah, but you also better be into men. At least this one man sitting right here. Okay. Then we learn from Lisa, she shares that at this point in her life, I mean, she's into women. And at this point in her life, she probably would never be with another man again, if not for Stan, because she sees him as her emotional soulmate. It's kind of strange, the age difference, but that doesn't matter to her because he lets her be who she is. He's so open-minded, especially when it comes to sex. And then she shares that like on one of their first dates, he took her down to the basement where he showed her his leather straight jacket that's like hanging from the ceiling. I said in my last episode, I didn't want to know what was happening in that basement, but now I can't get the image of Stan in that I don't even want to go there. But I mean, it's just like, wow, she spilled all the, did he know she was going to share this? Like, I'm just like, well, secret's out. Secret is out. Stan is a freak in the sheets, but she's cool with it, you know. She finally, you know, puts on a wig and he's like, oh, there's the girl I love, you know, but I think she really just, you know, the look to me looks like, and because she's sort of a self-proclaimed lesbian, I mean, I'm not trying to put any labels on her. Maybe she would consider herself bi, but she said she wouldn't be with any other man but Stan. I feel like this is the look she's chosen, kind of stud in her words, to kind of maybe pull the more feminine looking lesbian and bisexual woman in prison. That's how it appears to me, you know. Like I said, she puts on the wig, they're driving, we get a little more background on her. She says that she got married extremely young at 17 to her first husband who was abusive. When she left him, he took his life. She then got into another terrible marriage. But before she even divorced that guy, she got into another marriage, I guess another bad one, never divorced that guy. So that's why we have all this mess of what's her last name, who is she divorced from, they don't know, and she's gonna get that figured out. And she also has 3 children. I don't know from what marriages or you know, she didn't really specify that, but she does share that her oldest son, who is 22, she doesn't have a really great relationship with him because he kind of blames her for his not so great life, like that he, you know, doesn't have anything, doesn't have anybody, she hasn't been there. Like, I mean, it's understandable. She's been like an absentee mom in and out of prison. She says because, you know, she has this long list of felonies. She's been in 7 times. Every time she gets out, she never has any good intention to do right. She just thinks about partying, breaking the law, doing drugs, and then she gets sent back. Like, that's gotta be hard on a child. So as they're driving, her son calls her, and we don't get to hear his side of the conversation, but we hear her saying things like, I love you, I'm here for you, you know, I want to talk about this, but now's not a good time. This is a conversation we should have in person. Okay, you know, I'll talk to you later. And she kind of hangs up the phone, and Stan's just like, what's that all about? He seems annoyed. Like, you know, the phone call has kind of killed the mood because, you know, I think they're headed to a hotel because, you know, he just can't wait to, you know what I mean? Yeah, Stan, we know what's on your mind and what you mean with your eyebrows, okay? But this phone call has kind of killed the mood a little bit because she seems kind of a little bit like, oh, you know, she's, you know, for whatever, I don't know Lisa, but I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that deep down she is a caring mother and wants to make amends with her children and is, you know, pained when she hears her child is, you know, in such distress. So she tells him like, well, it's my son. He feels like he's all alone, like he doesn't have anybody. And Stan's just like, ugh, you know, just the drama, you know, it's just, it's taking all your focus away. Like, basically what he's saying is like, you know, today is like the first day of the rest of your life, which could be a great life if you weren't so focused on like, I don't know, like your family of jailbirds and your overly needy children that you've never been there for. Like, how Stan, like if you wanted a woman who, you know, didn't have children and could just focus on you and your basement toys, like again, TMI, then find a woman who's like, you know, single without kids and can just like focus fully on you. That's not at all who Lisa seems to be. And he's kind of just like, you know, you wouldn't have like, you know, all these problems, like, you know, if you just could like sort of like cut yourself off from what, her children? Like, I mean, jailbird family members, murderous father aside, like these are her kids. It's not, I mean, they're not baggage, they're her children. I mean, I don't know, he's old enough to understand. He just wants his fun lady friend that he met, you know, all those months ago on Seeking Arrangements. I think you need to get back on that dating app, Stan, and find you somebody else, because I don't think Lisa's the one. She doesn't seem totally interested. I mean, I think she's interested in like the things he can provide, because again, if she feels this way, I don't think this is a new revelation, her kind of only wanting to be with women. I think it's probably, I'm assuming, this is just my opinion, I think she's probably felt this way for a while, but why then would you go on Seeking Arrangements if only to find some man, you know, because that's who you're going to be matched with, who can, you know, monetarily support you, buy you gifts, give you money, pay your rent, whatever. Like, yeah, so she's kind of a user too, but you know, but she knows what the deal is, she knows what the arrangement is, and she's willing to play ball. So we'll see. I don't know. I think they kind of get into it next week. Not surprised, but ooh. Yeah, Lisa, not at all what I was imagining, but all right, we'll see what happens. Deontay and Nicole. All right, so it's the next morning. Nicole wakes up, you know, her mom's gonna dye her hair for her because she she wants to look good, feel good. And like I said, I prefer her natural color. I'm just not a fan of this like bleached out I don't even want to say Barbie blonde because I like Barbie blonde. This is just like some bleach job, cheap bleach job. But you know, her mom seems cool. You know, they're talking. Her mom just kind of checking in with her, like, so, you know, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, what's really going on with you and Deontay? And Nicole's like, you know, I do love Deontay, but now that I'm out, like, I can't help but just, you know, think of other ex-boyfriends and people I used to be with. So we find out that the night before, who she was texting was a previous boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, Zach, who she says, you know, she really loved, but, you know, they broke up sort of like it was a forced breakup because she was going to prison, and you can't really have a relationship when you're in prison, but aren't you having a relationship in prison with Deontay? Why not do that with Zach? Or does Zach actually have some sense to be like, yeah, not gonna do that? So she says that, you know, there's a lot of unfinished business between the two of them that needs to be worked out. But the mom knows her daughter and can see the situation for what it is and says, you know, that she knows that Nicole is into things more than relationships. And I guess that means, you know, it's her code way of saying, you know, Nicole's materialistic. And she goes on to say that's kind of what got her into trouble. I don't remember what Nicole went into prison for, but it was something that, you know, was like, if it was selling drugs, I think that what it was, to make money to buy things. Okay, so she's found Deontay who can do these things for her. And her mom can see that, yeah, she's taking advantage of him because it doesn't seem like she really wants to be with him. She certainly doesn't want to be intimate with him, which is fair. Okay, so the mom's like, well, you know, just be honest with him. Tell him how you really feel. Like, don't take advantage. You know, the mom seems to have like some good sense about her, some wisdom. But, you know, Nicole's just like, oh, it's fine. Like, you know, I do love him. You know, I'm just going to let him take care of me for a while. Like, that's her plan. Okay, we know that. So Deontay comes over to meet the mom. He's super nervous. You know, he's just like, you know, he comes in, he meets the mom. I think her name is Krista. And Nicole introduces them and then quickly is just like, well, I got to go wash my hair because it's full of like dye. I'm going to leave you two alone. So Deontay and the mom sit down and Deontay says, like, you know, it's really nice to meet you. I'm kind of nervous because I know how this may look. You know, a guy, why would a man go onto like a prison dating website to find somebody? But like, I really love your daughter. You know, as a matter of fact, like we're engaged. Did she tell you? And the mom's like, and he's like, oh damn, like, oh my God, I guess she didn't tell you. And the mom's like, no, she didn't tell me. And she's like, well, you know, be that as it may, like, I'm here just to make sure that you really love my daughter and you're not just using her, you know, so that you can have like some arm candy, you know, 'cause she's such a beautiful girl. And I was like, but mom, I thought you knew your daughter's a user. Like, I thought you understood that they're kind of taking advantage of each other, because I think, if I'm being fair, I think Deontay, you know, he's using her because there's a look she has that he likes. He likes the blonde hair, the big boobs, the big butt. That's what he likes, and that's what he's getting in Nicole. He may convince himself that he's in love with her, but he doesn't really know her. And in exchange, you know, Nicole gets gifts and money and a place to stay. Like, that's, you know, that's the understanding, except they want to pretend, or Nicole wants to pretend that no, he's just giving me nice things and I'm taking it, but he understands, like, you know, we're gonna take this slow. And I don't think he totally gets that, or she's kind of been murky about those details, right? So he's like, no, he tells mom, like, no, like, I love her, I'm not using her, you know, when I'm with women, I'm just, you know, I'm just kind of like a sucker for them. I'll do anything. And mom's like, women, like, plural? Do you have other women? And he says, no, I didn't mean it that way. What I meant was, like, when I'm in love with one woman, like, I give my all, I'm faithful, I'm loyal. As a matter of fact, and here we go, I've been loyal to your daughter. I've been faithful. And you want to know how I've been faithful? And the mom's just looking like, where the hell is this conversation going? And he actually tells her, you guys, he shares with her in another TMI moment, because that's all of the show is, And, you know, if it's not, you know, the positions that, you know, Doug put Rachel in, the sex dungeon that Stan has in his basement, now, you know, Deontay's gonna go into, you know, his sex toys with Nicole's mom. Like, dude, nobody wants to know about your sex toys. And not only that, but like there was this sort of like little side segment, like, you know, before the commercial they do in every episode, where he actually is giving like a tutorial on like how to use said sex torso. Like, you can use this lotion. I'm just like, oh my God, no, 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 no. I don't want to know. We don't need to know. And that's when I'm like, is he slow? I mean, he's got, his screws are a little loose. He's got a few loose screws. Or is he just that socially dumb? You can't pick up on cues. This is a totally inappropriate conversation to have with your fiance's mother. She doesn't want to think about, or is this just for like the cameras? Because I just can't imagine. I cannot imagine. And the mom's like, okay, that's all well and good, but I just want you to know, I'm gonna keep my eye on you for now. And so he's like, okay, you know, that's fine. You know, the mom immediately gets up, like knocks on the bathroom door, like knock, knock, knock. Nicole, excuse me, hi. Why didn't you tell me you were engaged? And Nicole's just like, ugh, we're not engaged. Like, I am not engaged. And the way she says it is in this tone that sounds like, like how many times do I have to tell him? Or how many people do I have to like, you know, explain to that I'm not engaged? Like, so she knows that this is what he's thinking. And she's just sort of just like annoyed that she has to keep like explaining that she's not. So she like stomps into the living room like, why did you tell her we're engaged? And he looks at her like, because I thought that we were. And then we get sort of Nicole's version of events. There's obviously some, I think, I don't want to say lack of communication, miscommunication. There's just like, she has a way of backpedaling. Okay, so this is her version. When she was in prison, she reached out to Deontay and said, hey, like, can you buy me a ring? She didn't specify what kind of ring, engagement ring, silver ring, gold. She just said, get me a ring. He showed up with the ring and she was really excited. That's all it was to her, because she could go around prison, you know, the other inmates who don't have rings and kind of like, look what I have and you don't. I don't know, it's like some sort of like status symbol. I don't know, but that's all that it meant to her. And so he's telling her, like, remember when I brought you the ring that you asked for, and when I gave it to you, I said, well, I guess this means I should just marry you, and you said yes. And she's looking at him like, yeah, I mean, I kind of said that, but she's like, yeah, but I mean, first of all, like, if I'm gonna get engaged, like, I need a real ring. This isn't a real ring, number one. Number two, I want to be proposed to, like, with somebody getting down on their knee, and that has yet to happen. And number three, like, we don't even know each other. Like, we haven't spent any time in the free world together. Now, she's making complete sense, and I totally agree with her. Like, number one, like, if a guy were just like, I guess we should get married, to me, that's not a proposal, number one. Number two, yeah, I'm kind of old-fashioned and traditional. I'm going to need you down on that knee. Number three, we're going to need a for-real engagement ring. And number four, I'm going to need to know you in the free world to know that, like, you're who I really want to be with, you know, not just this sort of phone conversations and letters. She's making sense, but, you know, I don't know that she's been totally clear with him on that. She's been giving him like this prison talk, telling him what he wants to hear, what she knows she needs to say to get the things that she wants. Like, that's, and now, like I said, she's backpedaling a little bit on like, that's not exactly what I said. You know, I'm sure, okay, let me tell you about my prison talk story, okay? This is a little side, this is story time, if you'll allow me, okay? Years ago, when I was in high school, I was like, in English class, I sat next to this girl. It was like sophomore year, I remember, so I must have been like 16. She was 16. I don't even know like how it came about. She had this letter she was reading, and I guess, I don't, like I said, I don't know, but I was like, what's that? What are you reading? And she was like, oh, I have a boyfriend and he's in prison. And I was like, oh, okay. And she let me read this letter. And what I remember about the letter like so clearly is that it was written in this really like fancy, like cursive, like almost like old English font, like super just like that guys could even like write like calligraphy like that. But the letter was also very just flowery, lovey-dovey, like, I love you, I can't wait to be with you when I get out, I can't wait to hold you, like, you know, all the things like a 16-year-old would want to hear. Because by the way, he was probably like in his mid-20s, he's probably early 20s, anywhere from like 20 to 25, and she's 16, okay? And it wasn't an explicit letter. You know, it wasn't like Doug, like, I want to bend you over and put your legs to the moon. It was kind of, like I said, I think he realized, you know, she was still innocent. He didn't want to totally freak her out. So it was just things like, oh, when I get out, I'm going to treat you like a princess and I'm going to take care of you. And it's like, yeah, as a 16-year-old, you would eat that up. And but my 16-year-old brain didn't really comprehend at the time, like, wow, like, this is a grown-ass man, like, writing these things to, like, a teenage child. Like, I was just like, oh, wow, how crazy. Okay. Years later, like after college, it was like one of my first jobs. I had this coworker, totally sweet girl, and we were like eating lunch, like in the lunchroom, and she was reading this letter. I think like it was like her brother or her cousin was in jail, and I think I don't really remember how the conversation got started. I might have been like, oh, what did you have there? And she might have said like, oh, this letter from like my brother, my cousin, he's in prison. And it reminded me of like, you know, this story in high school. And I guess she kind of grew up in that environment. You know, she obviously had this family member in prison, but she kind of shared that, you know, she had other family members in prison. But she, like I said, she was a totally sweet girl. Her life, like she was getting her life together. You know, she was great. But when I told her the story, she was just like, oh, that's prison talk. Like, yeah, that's total prison talk. That's what these guys do, you know, kind of like, you know, not only do they kind of like get off on like writing letters to these women to kind of like get something, like whether it be money, a letter back, sort of just like this girlfriend on the outside, this affection. She was like, you know, it's like they can pay people to write. Because I told her, like, I'll never forget this, like, really fancy writing. She's like, oh, there's people in prison that, like, they pay to do that. Like, you know, like, Shy Boy in Cell Block 52, like, that's what he does. You give him some money and he'll write the letter out for you all pretty. And I was like, I mean, this is what she said. I don't know if it's confirmed, but she seemed to be quite knowledgeable. And she was just like, that's prison talk. Like, he probably had no intention of, like, coming out and being with this young girl. It's just, like, something to kill time with and kind of, like, yeah, you know, he wants to hear it back and feel that love. And I was just like, oh, it's, I mean, and then like as an adult, I'm just like, I can't believe like this man was writing to, I mean, I'm sure it happens. I don't know how they met my friend in high school. Like, I don't know if she met him. I mean, this was years ago. I don't think there was like meet a prisoner website, pen pal, dating app, but I don't know what happened, but that's what I'm talking about, prison talk. I feel like, you know, Nicole said these things to him to make him feel this way. Is he kind of being foolish? Absolutely. But, you know, I think she told him at some point, you know, yeah, let's get married. Yeah, like, I don't want you just to pound it out. I want that slow grind. Like, but now she's getting out, and now, like, she can't even be touched by Deontay, at least. Like, and he's, like I said, he has a few screws loose. They're not totally missing, because he's picking up on this. He sees, like, she's acting different. She's talking different. You know, she's not reciprocating the love that he's giving. She's not giving back as much as he is. So he's aware. But, you know, he's so enamored and enthralled and in love. Like, he's not just going to give up. You know, he's just going to be hopeful that when he gets her home later that night, you know, I don't know, she'll come back around to the way she used to be when she was in prison. I mean, you know, I think next week she's gonna, like, you know, model that lingerie for him, but no, don't you touch. Cause I'm saying, I just don't, she's, you know, what more can I say about them? If he wants to be used, fine. If she wants to be a user, fine. Because that's what we have going on here. I think the mom is aware, but she doesn't want to totally throw her daughter under the bus. And I think, you know, I would respect Nicole more if she would just kind of admit, like, yeah, like, I need things, he's providing it, and when I'm done with it, goodbye. But, you know, what else can I say about them? That's it. I guess we'll see what happens next week. I mean, the YouTube screets are talking that Nicole's actually married already to a woman, which is totally fine. Side note, I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, because the mom was sharing while she was dyeing Nicole's hair, like, hey, so what do you think about me being with so-and-so? I don't remember basically a woman. And Nicole is like, yeah, when I went into prison, she was married to my dad. And when I got out, she's now married to her best friend, who I always considered an aunt. But hey, you like it, I love it, Mom. I have no problems. Like I said, I don't think the apple's fallen far from the tree, and that's totally fine with me. I just have a problem with people totally using people, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, that was the episode. I know I'm running really long with my story time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I shed some light on prison talk. But that's what I think of when I watch her. Like, yeah, she totally prison talked him, and he totally bought into all of it, and this is where he is now. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. If I missed anything, rate, comment, subscribe if you like. Thank you for coming back, and I will see you all next week. Have a good night. Bye. Driving over to the hotel, you know, Doug is just, he is all over Rachel. He's got his hands where we can only imagine. I hate it. I hate it.